Chapter 2 of the Elders section. Analysis of the causes and fixed rules for realizing Buddhahood 4. The Elders section. Vicus, after many years, many hundreds of years, many thousands of years had passed, Prince Vipassi summoned his charioteer and said, "Good friend, prepare the finest chariot. Let us go to the park to view the beautiful scenery." The charioteer replied, "Yes, your highness." After preparing the finest chariot, he informed Prince Vipassi, "Your Highness, the finest chariot is ready. Please decide whether it is time to depart." Then Prince Vipassi mounted the finest chariot and proceeded toward the park. Vicus, as Prince Vipassi was traveling to the park, he saw an old man, bent like a roof beam, leaning on a staff, trembling as he walked, afflicted with old age, his youth gone. Upon seeing this, he asked his charioteer, "Good friend, what has happened to this man? His hair is unlike others, and his body is unlike others. Your Highness, this is what is called an old man." "Why is he called an old man?" "Your Highness, he is called an old man because he will not live much longer." "Good friend, will I also become old? Can I not escape aging?" "Your Highness, you and I, all of us will become old. None can escape aging." "Then, good friend, let's not go to the park today. Let us return to the palace from here." The charioteer agreed, saying, "Yes, your highness," and turned the chariot back to the palace. Vicus, when Prince Vipassi returned to the palace, he became sorrowful and distressed, thinking deeply, "Shame indeed on this thing called birth, since whoever is born must inevitably age." Vicus, then King Banduma summoned the charioteer and asked, "Good friend, did the prince enjoy himself in the park? Was the prince pleased in the park?" "Your Majesty, the prince did not enjoy himself, nor was he pleased." "What did the prince see on his way to the park?" "Your Majesty, on his way to the park, the prince saw an old man, bent like a roof beam, leaning on a staff, trembling as he walked, afflicted with old age, his youth gone. Upon seeing this, he asked me, 'Good friend, what has happened to this man? His hair is unlike others, and his body is unlike others." I replied, "This is what is called an old man." "Why is he called an old man?" "This is what is called an old man because he will not live much longer." "Then will I also become old? Can I not escape aging?" "Your Highness, you and I, all of us will become old. None can escape aging." "Then, good friend, let us not go to the park today. Let us return to the palace from here." "Your Majesty," I agreed, saying, "Yes, your highness," and turned the chariot back to the palace. When the prince returned to the palace, he became sorrowful and distressed, thinking deeply, "Shame indeed on this thing called birth, since whoever is born must inevitably age." The sick person section. Vicus, then King Banduma thought, Prince Vipassi must not refuse to be king. Prince Vipassi must not go forth from home. The predictions of the Brahmin soothsayers must not come true. So, to make the prince enjoy more sensual pleasures, to make him become king, to prevent him from going forth, and to prevent the predictions of the Brahmin soothsayers from coming true, he provided the prince with even more sensual pleasures. Vicus, thus Prince Vipassi lived surrounded by the 5 strands of sensual pleasure, after many years. Vicus, as Prince Vipassi was traveling to the park, he saw a sick man, suffering greatly, seriously ill, lying in his own excrement and urine, needing others to lift him and care for him. Upon seeing this, he asked his charioteer, "Good friend, what has happened to this man? His eyes are unlike others, and his voice is unlike others." "Your Highness, this is what is called a sick man." "Why is he called a sick man?" "Your Highness, this is what is called a sick man. Let us hope he recovers from his illness." "Good friend, will I also become sick? Can I not escape illness?" "Your Highness, you and I, all of us will become sick. None can escape illness." "Then, good friend, let us not go to the park today. Let us return to the palace from here." Vicus, the charioteer agreed, saying, "Yes, your highness," and turned the chariot back to the palace. Vicus, when Prince Vipassi returned to the palace, he became sorrowful and distressed, thinking deeply, "Shame indeed on this thing called birth, since whoever is born must inevitably not only age, but also fall ill." Bicchus, then King Banduma, summoned the charioteer and asked, "Good friend, did the prince enjoy himself in the park? Was the prince pleased in the park?" "Your Majesty, the prince did not enjoy himself, nor was he pleased." "Then, good friend, what did the prince see on his way?" "Your Majesty, the prince saw a sick man." Wink with a frown, repeating the above conversation. Shame indeed on this thing called birth, since whoever is born must inevitably not only age, but also fall ill. The dead person section. Bicchus, then King Bandima thought. Prince Vipassi must not refuse to be king. Prince Vipassi must not go forth from home. The predictions of the Brahmin soothsayers must not come true. So, to make the prince enjoy more sensual pleasures, to make him become king, to prevent him from going forth, and to prevent the predictions of the Brahmin soothsayers from coming true, he provided the prince with even more sensual pleasures. Bicchus, thus Prince Vipassi lived surrounded by the 5 strands of sensual pleasure after many years. Bicchus, as Prince Vipassi was traveling to the park, he saw a large crowd gathered, with cloths of various colors laid out. He asked his charioteer, "Good friend, why is there such a large crowd gathered, with cloths of various colors laid out?" "Your Highness, that is a dead person." "Then drive the chariot toward the dead person." "Yes, your Highness." So the charioteer drove toward the dead person. Upon seeing the dead person, Prince Vipassi asked, "Good friend, what is a dead person?" "Your Highness, this is a dead person. His parents and relatives will see him no more, and he will see his parents and relatives no more." "Will I also die? Can I not escape death? Will the king and queen no longer see me? And will I no longer see the king and queen?" "Yes, your Highness, you and I, all of us will die. None can escape death. Your parents will no longer see you, and you will no longer see your parents." "Then let us not go to the park today. Let us return to the palace from here." Bicchus, the charioteer, agreed, saying, "Yes, your Highness," and turned the chariot back to the palace. Bicchus, when Prince Vipassi returned to the palace, he became sorrowful and distressed, thinking deeply. Shame indeed on this thing called birth, since whoever is born must inevitably not only age and fall ill, but also die. Bicchus, then King Banduma, summoned the charioteer and asked, "Good friend, did the prince enjoy himself in the park? Was the prince pleased in the park?" "Your Majesty, the prince did not enjoy himself, nor was he pleased." "Then what did the prince see on his way?" "Your Majesty, the prince saw a large crowd gathered, with cloths of various colors laid out. He asked me, 'Why is there such a large crowd gathered, with cloths of various colors laid out?' I replied, 'That is a dead person.' He said, 'Then drive the chariot toward the dead person.' I agreed, saying, 'Yes, your Highness.' So I drove toward the dead person. Upon seeing the dead person, the prince asked me, 'What is a dead person?' "This is a dead person. His parents and relatives will see him no more, and he will see his parents and relatives no more. Will I also die? Can I not escape death? Will the king and queen no longer see me? And will I no longer see the king and queen?" "Yes, your Highness, you and I, all of us will die. None can escape death. Your parents will no longer see you, and you will no longer see your parents." "Then let us not go to the park today. Let us return to the palace from here." So I turned the chariot back to the palace. When the prince returned to the palace, he became sorrowful and distressed, thinking deeply. Shame indeed on this thing called birth, since whoever is born must inevitably not only age and fall ill, but also die. The renunciant section. Bicchus, then King Bandima thought. Prince Vipassi must not refuse to be king. Prince Vipassi must not go forth from home. The predictions of the Brahmin soothsayers must not come true. So, to make the prince enjoy more sensual pleasures, to make him become king, to prevent him from going forth, and to prevent the predictions of the Brahmin soothsayers from coming true, he provided the prince with even more sensual pleasures. Bicchus, thus Prince Vipassi lived surrounded by the 5 strands of sensual pleasure. After many years, many hundreds of years, many thousands of years had passed, Prince Vipassi summoned his charioteer and said, "Good friend, prepare the finest chariot. Let us go to the park to view the beautiful scenery, The charioteer replied, "Yes, your highness." After preparing the finest chariot, he informed Prince Vipassi, "Your highness, the finest chariot is ready. Please decide whether it is time to depart." Then Prince Vipassi mounted the finest chariot and proceeded toward the park. Vicus, as Prince Vipassi was traveling to the park, he saw a shaven-headed renunciant wearing the ochre robe. Upon seeing this, he asked his charioteer, "Good friend, what has happened to this man? His hair is unlike others, and his clothes are unlike others." "Your highness, this is what is called a renunciant." "What is a renunciant?" "Your highness, this is what is called a renunciant. He practices the Dhamma well, practices tranquility well, practices merit well, practices wholesome deeds well, practices harmlessness well, practices compassion well." Good indeed is this renunciant, who practices the Dhamma well, practices tranquility well, practices merit well, practices wholesome deeds well, practices harmlessness well, practices compassion well. Good friend, drive the chariot toward that renunciant. The charioteer agreed, saying, "Yes, your highness," and drove toward him. Prince Vipassi said to that renunciant, "Venerable sir, what has happened to you? Your hair is unlike others, and your clothes are unlike others." "I am a renunciant." "What is a renunciant?" "I am a renunciant who practices the Dhamma well, practices tranquility well, practices merit well, practices wholesome deeds well, practices harmlessness well, practices compassion well." Good indeed is this renunciant, who practices the Dhamma well, practices tranquility well, practices merit well, practices wholesome deeds well, practices harmlessness well, practices compassion well. The Bodhisattva's renunciation section. Bhikkhus, then Prince Vipassi said to his charioteer, "Good friend, you return to the palace with the chariot. I shall shave off my hair and beard, put on the ochre robe, and go forth from home right here." The charioteer agreed, saying, "Yes, your highness," and returned to the palace with the chariot. And Prince Vipassi, right there, shaved off his hair and beard, put on the ochre robe, and went forth from home. The great following section. Bhikkhus, when 84,000 people in the royal city of Banamati heard that Prince Vipassi had shaved off his hair and beard, put on the ochre robe, and gone forth from home, they thought, "This must be no ordinary Dhamma and discipline. This must be no ordinary going forth, since even Prince Vipassi has shaved off his hair and beard, put on the ochre robe, and gone forth from home. Why shouldn't we do the same?" Bhikkhus, those 84,000 people all shaved off their hair and beards, put on ochre robes, and went forth following the Bodhisattva Vipassi. Bhikkhus, the Bodhisattva Vipassi wandered with this company through villages, towns, countries, and royal cities. Bhikkhus, when the Bodhisattva Vipassi was in seclusion, reflecting in private, this thought arose in his mind: "It is not proper for me to live in a crowd. I should live alone, away from the crowd." So later the Bodhisattva Vipassi lived alone, away from the crowd. Those 84,000 renunciants went one way, and the Bodhisattva Vipassi went another. The Bodhisattva's enlightenment section. Bhikkhus, when the Bodhisattva Vipassi had settled down and was reflecting in seclusion, this thought arose in his mind: "This world has truly fallen into suffering. There is birth, aging, death, passing away, and rebirth. Yet people do not know how to escape from this suffering of aging and death. When will an escape from this suffering of aging and death be discerned?" Bhikkhus, the Bodhisattva Vipassi, further thought: "When what exists does aging and death exist? What is the condition for aging and death?" Bhikkhus, through careful attention, the Bodhisattva Vipassi realized through wisdom: when birth exists, aging and death exist. Birth is the condition for aging and death. Bhikkhus, the Bodhisattva Vipassi, further thought: "When what exists does birth exist? What is the condition for birth?" Through careful attention, he realized through wisdom: when becoming exists, birth exists. Becoming is the condition for birth. Bhikkhus, the Bodhisattva Vipassi, further thought: "When what exists does becoming exist? What is the condition for becoming?" Through careful attention, he realized through wisdom: when clinging exists, becoming exists. clinging is the condition for becoming. Bickus, the bodhisattva vipassy, further thought. When what exists, does clinging exist? What is the condition for clinging? Through careful attention, he realized through wisdom. When craving exists, clinging exists. Craving is the condition for clinging. Bickus, the bodhisattva vipassy, further thought. When what exists, does craving exist? What is the condition for craving? Through careful attention, he realized through wisdom. When feeling exists, craving exists. Feeling is the condition for craving. Bickus, the bodhisattva vipassy, further thought. When what exists, does feeling exist? What is the condition for feeling? Through careful attention, he realized through wisdom. When contact exists, feeling exists. Contact is the condition for feeling. Bickus, the bodhisattva vipassy, further thought. When what exists, does contact exist? What is the condition for contact? Through careful attention, he realized through wisdom. When the six sense bases exist, contact exists. The six sense bases are the condition for contact. Bickus, the bodhisattva vipassy, further thought. When what exists, do the six sense bases exist? What is the condition for the six sense bases? Through careful attention, he realized through wisdom. When name and form exists, the six sense bases exist. Name and form is the condition for the six sense bases. Bickus, the bodhisattva vipassy, further thought. When what exists, does name and form exist? What is the condition for name and form? Through careful attention, he realized through wisdom. When consciousness exists, name and form exists. Consciousness is the condition for name and form. Bickus, the bodhisattva vipassy, further thought. When what exists, does consciousness exist? What is the condition for consciousness? Through careful attention, he realized through wisdom. When name and form exists, consciousness exists. Name and form is the condition for consciousness. Bickus, the bodhisattva vipassy, further thought. This consciousness turns back at name and form and goes no further. It is just to this extent that there is birth, aging, death, passing away, and rebirth, namely, dependent on name and form, there is consciousness. Dependent on consciousness, name and form. Dependent on name and form, the six sense bases. Dependent on the six sense bases, contact. Dependent on contact, feeling. Dependent on feeling, craving. Dependent on craving, clinging. Dependent on clinging, becoming. Dependent on becoming, birth. Dependent on birth, aging, death, sorrow, lamentation, pain, grief, and despair come to be, such as the origin of this whole mass of suffering. Origination, Bickus, concerning things unheard before, there arose in the bodhisattva vipassy vision, knowledge, wisdom, true knowledge, and light. Bickus, the bodhisattva vipassy, further thought. When what does not exist, is there no aging and death? With the cessation of what comes the cessation of aging and death? Through careful attention, he realized through wisdom. When birth does not exist, there is no aging and death. With the cessation of birth comes the cessation of aging and death. Bickus, the bodhisattva vipassy, further thought. When what does not exist, is there no birth? With the cessation of what comes the cessation of birth? Through careful attention, he realized through wisdom. When becoming does not exist, there is no birth. With the cessation of becoming comes the cessation of birth. Bickus, the bodhisattva vipassy, further thought. When what does not exist, is there no becoming? With the cessation of what comes the cessation of becoming? Through careful attention, he realized through wisdom. When clinging does not exist, there is no becoming. With the cessation of clinging comes the cessation of becoming. Bickus, the bodhisattva vipassy, further thought. When what does not exist, is there no clinging? With the cessation of what comes the cessation of clinging? Through careful attention, he realized through wisdom. When craving does not exist, there is no clinging. With the cessation of craving comes the cessation of clinging. Bickus, the bodhisattva vipassy, further thought. When what does not exist, is there no craving? With the cessation of what comes the cessation of craving? Through careful attention, he realized through wisdom. When feeling does not exist, there is no craving. With the cessation of feeling comes the cessation of craving. Bickus, the bodhisattva passi, further thought. When what does not exist, is there no feeling? With the cessation of what comes the cessation of feeling? Through careful attention, he realized through wisdom. When contact does not exist, there is no feeling. With the cessation of contact comes the cessation of feeling. Bhikkhus, the bodhisattva passi, further thought. When what does not exist, is there no contact? With the cessation of what comes the cessation of contact? Through careful attention, he realized through wisdom. When the six sense bases do not exist, there is no contact. With the cessation of the six sense bases comes the cessation of contact. Bhikkhus, the bodhisattva passi, further thought. When what does not exist, are there no six sense bases? With the cessation of what comes the cessation of the six sense bases? Through careful attention, he realized through wisdom. When name and form does not exist, there are no six sense bases. With the cessation of name and form comes the cessation of the six sense bases. Bhikkhus, the bodhisattva passi, further thought. When what does not exist, is there no name and form? With the cessation of what comes the cessation of name and form? Through careful attention, he realized through wisdom. When consciousness does not exist, there is no name and form. With the cessation of consciousness comes the cessation of name and form. Bhikkhus, the bodhisattva passi, further thought. When what does not exist, is there no consciousness? With the cessation of what comes the cessation of consciousness? Through careful attention, he realized through wisdom. When name and form does not exist, there is no consciousness. With the cessation of name and form comes the cessation of consciousness. Bhikkhus, the bodhisattva passi, further thought. I have discovered the path to enlightenment. That is, through the cessation of name and form comes the cessation of consciousness. Through the cessation of consciousness comes the cessation of name and form. Through the cessation of name and form comes the cessation of the six sense bases. Through the cessation of the six sense bases comes the cessation of contact. Through the cessation of contact comes the cessation of feeling. Through the cessation of feeling comes the cessation of craving. Through the cessation of craving comes the cessation of clinging. Through the cessation of clinging comes the cessation of becoming. Through the cessation of becoming comes the cessation of birth. Through the cessation of birth, aging, death, sorrow, lamentation, pain, grief, and despair cease, such as the cessation of this whole mass of suffering. Cessation, cessation, Bhikkhus, concerning things unheard before, there arose in the bodhisattva passi vision, knowledge, wisdom, true knowledge, and light. Bhikkhus, later the bodhisattva passi dwelled, contemplating the rise and fall of the five aggregates subject to clinging, such as form, such as the origin of form, such as the disappearance of form, such as feeling, such as the origin of feeling, such as the disappearance of feeling, such as perception, such as the origin of perception, such as the disappearance of perception, such as formations, such as the origin of formations, such as the disappearance of formations, such as consciousness, such as the origin of consciousness, such as the disappearance of consciousness. As he dwelled thus contemplating the rise and fall of the five aggregates subject to clinging, before long his mind was liberated from the taints. End of second recitation section. Explanations of Buddhist terms and sentences. 1. Such is the origin of this whole mass of suffering. Simple explanation. This is the source of all suffering. Detailed explanation. It's like a chain, with each link connected to the next, starting from ignorance and ending with aging and death. Each link brings new suffering. These sufferings accumulate to form life's burden. Metaphor. Like a snowball rolling downhill, growing larger until it becomes an enormous mass of suffering. 2. Such is the cessation of this whole mass of suffering. Simple explanation. This is how to eliminate all suffering. Detailed explanation. Starting from a source, removing each cause step by step. When ignorance ceases, formations cease. When formations cease, consciousness ceases. Eventually, all suffering disappears. Like unlinking a chain, one link at a time. Metaphor. Like melting a snowball, it gradually dissolves until it completely disappears. 3. There arose in the Bodhisattva Vipassy vision, knowledge, wisdom, true knowledge, and light. Simple explanation. He gained true wisdom. Detailed explanation. Vision. The ability to see the truth. Knowledge. The ability to understand the truth. Wisdom. The ability to discern right from wrong. True knowledge. The ability to illuminate darkness. Light. The ability to guide others. Metaphor. Like 5 lamps suddenly lit in darkness. 4. Through careful attention, he realized through wisdom. Simple explanation. Using the correct method of thinking to gain true understanding. Detailed explanation. Careful attention. Thinking according to correct principles. Deep reflection. Profound contemplation. Wisdom. True understanding. Realization. Personal verification. Metaphor. Like solving a math problem using the correct method and arriving at the right answer. 5. As he dwelled, thus contemplating the rise and fall of the 5 aggregates subject to clinging, before long his mind was liberated from the taints. Simple explanation. By observing the changes in the 5 aggregates, he ultimately gained liberation. Detailed explanation. 5 aggregates subject to clinging. Form, feeling, perception, formations, consciousness. Rise and fall, arising and disappearing. Taints, various afflictions. Liberation, attaining freedom. Metaphor, like observing clouds coming and going, ultimately understanding that everything is impermanent. Explanation of the 5 aggregates. 1. Form material. Simple explanation. The body and material world specifically includes our physical body, what the eyes see, what the ears hear, what the nose smells, what the tongue tastes, what the body feels. Metaphor, like the hardware of a computer. 2. Feeling, sensation. Simple explanation. Various feelings. Specifically includes pleasant feelings, painful feelings, neutral feelings. Metaphor, like the signals a computer receives. 3. Perception, cognition. Simple explanation. Recognition and understanding. Specifically includes recognizing things, understanding concepts, forming ideas. Metaphor, like a computer processing information. 4. Formations, volition. Simple explanation. Mental activities. Specifically includes desires, determination, plans, actions. Metaphor, like a computer executing programs. 5. Consciousness, awareness. Simple explanation. Conscious activities. Specifically includes eye consciousness, visual awareness, ear consciousness, auditory awareness, nose consciousness, olfactory awareness, tongue consciousness, taste awareness, body consciousness, tactile awareness, mind consciousness, thought awareness. Metaphor, like a computer's operating system. Modern understanding of the 5 aggregates. 1. Overall relationship. Like a complete computer, each part works together. None can be missing. They function together. I will analyze this Buddhist scripture in detail, which is a profound story about the Buddha's path to enlightenment. Let's examine it from several perspectives. 1. Basic structure of the story. The story is divided into several important sections. The elders section. The prince's first encounter with an old person. The sick person section. The prince encounters a sick person. The dead person section. The prince witnesses death. The renunciant section. The prince meets a renunciant. The Bodhisattva's enlightenment section. The final process of enlightenment. 2. Core theme analysis. 1. Awakening to the 4 great truths of suffering. The story shows how the prince gradually encounters old age, sickness, and death, the inevitable paths of life. Each encounter prompts deep reflection. Shame indeed on this thing called birth, since whoever is born must inevitably age. Not only age, but also fall ill. Not only age and fall ill, but also die. This progressive realization reveals the truth of life. 2. The path to enlightenment. The latter part of the story describes in detail Bodhisattva Vipassa's enlightenment process through the analysis of dependent origination, the 12 links, tracing back from aging and death to birth, from birth back to becoming, finally forming a complete causal chain. Let me explain each link of dependent origination in detail. 1. Ignorance. Definition: not knowing the Four Noble Truths, confusion about life's reality. Manifestation: not knowing the truth of suffering, its cause, the method to end it. Metaphor: like walking in darkness, unable to see the path ahead. Example: someone addicted to pleasure, unaware that it ultimately leads to suffering. Explanation of the Four Noble Truths. 1. The truth of suffering. Basic meaning: life is full of suffering. Ma manifestation: suffering of birth, suffering of aging, suffering of illness, suffering of death, suffering of separation from what is loved, suffering of association with what is disliked, suffering of not getting what one wants. Modern examples: work pressure, emotional difficulties, life troubles. 2. The truth of the origin of suffering. Basic meaning: the source of suffering. Main causes: greed, excessive desire, hatred, anger and aversion, delusion, ignorance. Modern examples: materialism, emotional instability, cognitive biases. 3. The truth of the cessation of suffering. Basic meaning: suffering can end. Key points: complete elimination of afflictions, reaching the state of nirvana, attaining true liberation. Modern understanding: inner peace, awakening of wisdom, freedom of mind. 4. The truth of the path to the cessation of suffering. Basic meaning: specific methods for liberation. The Eightfold Path. Right view, correct understanding. Right intention, correct thinking. Right speech, correct speech. Right action, correct behavior. Right livelihood, correct livelihood. Right effort, correct effort. Right mindfulness, correct mindfulness. Right concentration, correct concentration. The Four Noble Truths are: recognizing the problem, suffering; finding the cause, origin; establishing the goal, cessation; finding the solution, path. This is a complete system of discovering the problem, analyzing the problem, solving the problem. Explanation of the Eightfold Path. 1. Right view, correct understanding. Basic meaning: correct worldview. Main content: understanding the Four Noble Truths, understanding the law of cause and effect, recognizing impermanence. Modern application: cultivating correct values, understanding the nature of things, maintaining rational thinking. 2. Right intention, correct thinking. Basic meaning: correct way of thinking. Main content: free from greed, free from hatred, free from harm. Modern application: positive thinking, maintaining goodwill, rational decision-making. 3. Right speech, correct speech. Basic meaning: correct way of speaking. Main content: not lying, not using harsh words, not slandering, not engaging in idle talk. Modern application: honesty and integrity, gentle speech, avoiding gossip. 4. Right action, correct behavior. Basic meaning: correct way of acting. Main content: not killing, not stealing, not engaging in sexual misconduct. Modern application: respecting life, observing laws and regulations. Proper conduct. 5. Right livelihood, correct livelihood. Basic meaning: correct way of living. Main content: proper occupation, proper income, proper lifestyle. Modern application: choosing ethical careers, reasonable consumption, healthy lifestyle. 6. Right effort, correct effort. Basic meaning: correct direction of effort. Main content: eliminating unwholesome thoughts, cultivating wholesome thoughts, maintaining right mindfulness. Modern application: being proactive, perseverance, maintaining focus. 7. Right mindfulness, correct mindfulness. Basic meaning: correct awareness. Main content: awareness of body, awareness of feelings, awareness of mind, awareness of phenomena. Modern application: maintaining awareness, living in the present, observing the mind. 8. Right concentration, correct concentration. Basic meaning: correct focus. Main content: one-pointedness of mind, Inner peace, arising of wisdom, modern application, cultivating concentration, maintaining inner peace, enhancing awareness, methods of practicing the Eightfold Path. 1. Daily application, maintaining mindful living, cultivating good habits, improving personal cultivation. 2. Specific practices, observing the breath, being aware of thoughts, maintaining awareness. 3. Gradual progress, starting simple, persevering, deepening gradually. The Eightfold Path is correct understanding, correct thinking, correct speech, correct behavior, correct livelihood, correct effort, correct mindfulness, correct concentration. This is a complete system of practice, a practical guide for living, a method of practical wisdom. 2. Formations. Definition: mental activities arising from ignorance. Manifestation: wholesome, unwholesome, and neutral formations. Metaphor: like seeds beginning to sprout. Example: the impulse to shop due to greed. Explanation of neutral formations. Simple definition: actions neither wholesome nor unwholesome. Main characteristics: do not create wholesome karma. Do not create unwholesome karma. Do not produce results. Modern understanding: neutral behavior. Specific manifestations: daily behaviors, walking, sleeping, breathing, blinking, drinking water. Neutral formations: no wholesome or unwholesome motivation. No karmic results. Neutral state. 3. Consciousness. Definition: ability to recognize and know. Manifestation: eye, ear, nose, tongue, body, and mind consciousness. Metaphor: like a camera beginning to focus. Example: food desire arising when seeing food. 4. Name and form. Definition: combination of mental and physical elements. Manifestation: feeling, perception, volition, contact, and other mental activities. Metaphor: like a seedling growing from seed. Example: the pleasurable feeling when seeing food. 5. Six sense bases. Definition: six sense organs. Manifestation: eye, ear, nose, tongue, body, and mind. Metaphor: like a seedling growing branches and leaves. Example: seeing food through the eyes, smelling it through the nose. 6. Contact. Definition: contact between sense organs and external objects. Manifestation: eye contact, ear contact, nose contact, tongue contact, body contact, and mind contact. Metaphor: like branches and leaves touching sunlight. Example: actually tasting food. 7. Feeling. Definition: sensation. Manifestation: pleasant, unpleasant, and neutral feelings. Metaphor: like a plant feeling the warmth of sunlight. Example: the pleasant feeling when tasting food. 8. Craving. Definition: desire, thirst. Manifestation: craving for sensual pleasures, craving for existence, craving for non-existence. Metaphor: like a plant craving more sunlight. Example: the desire to eat more food. 1. Craving for sensual pleasures. Simple definition: desire for sensory enjoyment. Specific manifestations: liking beautiful things, eye; liking pleasant sounds, ear; liking fragrances, nose; liking delicious tastes, tongue; liking comfortable sensations, body. Modern examples: pursuing fine cuisine, shopping desire, pursuing pleasure, gaming addiction, pursuing sensory stimulation. 2. Craving for existence. Simple definition: desire for continued existence. Specific manifestations: wanting to live forever, pursuing fame and status, desiring power, pursuing achievement, wanting to maintain the status quo. Modern examples: pursuing career success, desiring promotion and higher salary, pursuing social status, wanting to stay young forever, fear of losing what one has. 3. Craving for non-existence. Simple definition: desire for non-existence. Specific manifestations: tired of the status quo, wanting to disappear, pursuing nihilism, negating everything, escaping reality. Modern examples: world weariness, wanting to escape responsibilities, denying life's value, pursuing emptiness, wanting to end the current situation. Relationship between these three types of craving. All are sources of suffering. They influence each other. They cycle repeatedly. They lead to attachment. They hinder liberation. 9. Clinging. Definition: attachment, grasping. Manifestation: clinging to sensual pleasures, views, rites and rituals, and the doctrine of self. Metaphor: like a plant firmly gripping the soil. Example: attachment to food, unwilling to let go. 1. Clinging to sensual pleasures. Basic meaning: attachment to sensory enjoyment. Specific manifestations: addiction to material pleasures, pursuing sensory stimulation, indulging in desires. Modern examples: excessive shopping, food addiction, pursuing pleasure, craving comfort, gaming addiction. 2. Clinging to views. Basic meaning: attachment to wrong views. Specific manifestations: stubbornness, blind faith in authority, blind worship, false cognition. Modern examples: science worship, blindly following trends, persistent prejudice, blind faith in authority, false cognition. 3. Clinging to rites and rituals. Basic meaning: attachment to wrong precepts. Specific manifestations: blindly following precepts, formalism, mechanical practice, superstitious rituals. Modern examples: blindly following rules, formalism, mechanical practice, superstitious rituals, blind worship. 4. Clinging to the doctrine of self. Basic meaning: attachment to self. Specific manifestations: self-attachment, pride, self-view, self-grasping. Modern examples: self-centeredness, stubbornness, arrogance, self-attachment, pride and self-view. Relationship between the four types of clinging. 1. Common characteristics. All are attachments. All are afflictions. All are sources of suffering. All need to be let go. 2. Mutual influence. Interconnected. Mutually reinforcing. Cyclical. Hard to escape. 3. Significance for practice. Recognizing attachment. Reducing afflictions. Gaining wisdom. Achieving liberation. The four types of clinging are: clinging to sensual pleasures, attachment to sensory enjoyment, clinging to views, attachment to wrong views, clinging to rites and rituals, attachment to wrong precepts, clinging to the doctrine of self, attachment to self. 10. Becoming. Definition: existence, life, manifestation, sensual becoming, form becoming, formless becoming. Metaphor: like a plant beginning to bear fruit. Example: forming habits of craving food. 1. Sensual becoming. Basic meaning: existence in the desire realm. Specific manifestations: attachment to material things, pursuit of pleasure, indulgence in desires. Modern examples: pursuing wealth, craving enjoyment, indulging in desires, attachment to material things, pursuing sensory stimulation. 2. Form becoming. Basic meaning: existence in the form realm. Specific manifestations: attachment to form, pursuit of perfection, fascination with appearance. Modern examples: pursuing beauty, attachment to body shape, fascination with appearance, pursuing perfection, attachment to form. 3. Formless becoming. Basic meaning: existence in the formless realm. Specific manifestations: attachment to the spiritual, pursuit of states, fascination with emptiness. Modern examples: pursuing states, attachment to spiritual experiences, fascination with emptiness, pursuing liberation, attachment to practice. Relationship between the three types of becoming. 1. Hierarchical relationship. Sensual becoming, coarsest. Form becoming, more subtle. Formless becoming, most subtle. 2. Significance for practice. Recognizing existence, reducing attachment, gaining wisdom, achieving liberation. 3. Mutual influence. Interconnected, mutually transformative, cyclical. The three types of becoming are: sensual becoming, existence in the desire realm, form becoming, existence in the form realm. Formless becoming, existence in the formless realm. 11. Birth. Definition, new life. Manifestation, various forms of birth. Metaphor, like fruit falling to the ground and taking root. Example, new cravings arising. 12. Aging and death. Definition, aging and death. Manifestation, various forms of aging and death. Metaphor, like a plant withering. Example, the fading of craving and arising of new desires. How the 12 links of dependent origination work. 1. Forward observation, the flow of samsara. Ignorance formations, consciousness, name and form, sixth sense, bases, contact, feeling, craving, clinging, becoming, birth, aging, and death. This explains how suffering arises. 2. Reverse observation, the cessation. Cessation of ignorance, cessation of formation, cessation of consciousness, cessation of name and form, cessation of sixth sense basis, cessation of contact, cessation of feeling, cessation of craving, cessation of clinging, cessation of becoming, cessation of birth, cessation of aging and death. This explains how to eliminate suffering. Modern applications of the 12 links of dependent origination. 1. Psychological level. Helps us understand how emotions arise, understand the roots of desire, recognize the harm of attachment. 2. Life level. Understand problems in interpersonal relationships, handle work pressure, manage emotions and desires. 3. Practice level. Cultivate mindfulness by observing the 12 links. Understand the path to liberation. Practice the Eightfold Path. Importance of understanding the 12 links of dependent origination. 1. Recognize the truth of life. 2. Understand the root of suffering. 3. Find the method of liberation. 4. Cultivate wisdom. 5. Attain inner peace. Through deep understanding of the 12 links of dependent origination, we can better understand ourselves, understand the nature of life, find true happiness, attain spiritual liberation. The 12 links of dependent origination are not just a theoretical system, but also a practical guide to help us recognize life, understand suffering, and find the path to liberation. Let me explain the 12 links of dependent origination using the course of a human life. 1. Ignorance, from the end of previous life to before conception. Period. The confused stage at the end of the previous life. Manifestation, confusion and attachment regarding the next life. State, craving from the previous life leading to pursuit of new life. Example, like someone in a dream, not knowing where they are heading. 2. Formations, formation of the fertilized egg. Period, the moment of conception. Manifestation, union of parental gametes, karma of new life begins to operate. State, beginning to form a new life form. Example, like the moment a seed is sown. 3. Consciousness, early pregnancy, 0 to 3 months. Period, early embryonic development. Manifestation, formation of initial consciousness. State, beginning to have weak perceptual abilities. Example, the fetus has simple reactions to external stimuli. 4. Name and form, mid-pregnancy, 3 to 6 months. Period, fetal organ formation. Manifestation, formation of bodily organs and initial consciousness. State, beginning to have obvious physiological structures. Example, the fetus begins to have noticeable limb movements. 5. Sixth sense bases, late pregnancy to birth, 6 to 9 months. Period, maturation of sensory systems. Manifestation, gradual formation of the sixth sense faculties, eye, ear, nose, tongue, body, mind. State, possessing basic perceptual abilities. Example, the fetus can respond to sound and touch. 6. Contact, birth to 3 years. Period, infancy. Manifestation, beginning to contact the external environment. State, recognizing the world through the senses. Example, infants grasping toys, recognizing parents. 7. Feeling, 3 to 6 years. Period, early childhood. Manifestation, beginning to have clear joy, anger, sorrow, and happiness. State, forming basic emotional cognition. Example, showing happiness for like toys. 8. Craving, 6 to 12 years. Period, childhood. Manifestation, beginning to produce various desires. State, forming likes and dislikes for things. Example, liking specific toys, foods. 9. Clinging, 12 to 18 years. Period, adolescence. Manifestation, beginning to pursue and become attached. State, forming strong personal consciousness. Example, pursuing fashion, making friends. 10. Becoming, 18 to 30 years. Period, young adulthood. Manifestation, beginning to create one's own life. State, forming life goals and plans. Example, pursuit of studies, career, marriage. 11. Birth, 30 to 60 years. Period, adulthood. Manifestation, realizing various life goals. State, establishment and development of career and family. Example, working, raising children. 12. Aging and death, 60 years onwards. Period, old age to death. Manifestation, gradual decline of body and mind. State, facing the end of life. Example, retirement, illness, death. Special notes. 1. Explanation of age divisions. These age divisions are approximate and may differ for each person. Some stages may overlap or intersect. In modern society, these stages may come earlier or later. 2. Cyclical characteristics. Each stage prepares for the next. The stages influence each other and are not completely independent. Some stages may occur simultaneously. 3. Influence of modern life. The popularization of education causes cognitive development to occur earlier. Medical advances extend lifespan. Social development accelerates the pace of life. 4. Significance of practice. Awakening can begin at any stage. Through enlightenment, attachment can be reduced. Understanding the nature of life helps with letting go. 5. Practical application. Helps understand the characteristics of each life stage. Better plan one's life. Cultivate the right attitude toward life. Significance of understanding this process. 1. Life education. Understand the laws of life development. Recognize the inevitability of growth. Accept the naturalness of aging. 2. Psychological adjustment. Adapt to each life stage. Handle confusion during growth. Face life and death with wisdom. 3. Life planning. Reasonably arrange life goals. Cherish the present. Cultivate correct values. By understanding the 12 links of dependent origination at each life stage, we can better understand the meaning of life. Cherish current life. Face life with wisdom. Attain inner peace. This understanding not only helps us recognize the nature of life, but also guides us on how to live better. Let me use a few vivid metaphors to explain the 12 links of dependent origination. 1. Metaphor of the great cycle of birth and death river cycle. Imagine a never-ending river. Ignorance. Like the source of the river, we don't know the nature of water. Formations. Water begins to flow. Consciousness. Water forms a specific riverbed. Name and form. Both banks of the river form. 6 sense bases. The river begins to accept tributaries. Contact. Tributaries join the mainstream. Feeling. The river water begins to have temperature changes. Craving. The water begins to have preferences, flowing in a certain direction. Clinging. The water begins to erode the banks. Becoming. New riverbeds form. Birth. New tributaries arise. Aging and death. Tributaries eventually merge back into the mainstream. This cycle is like the cycle of birth and death for humans, repeating this process in each life. 2. Cycle of specific events, shopping addiction. Let's use an example modern people can easily understand. Ignorance, not understanding the harm of shopping addiction. Formations, beginning to have shopping impulses. Consciousness, forming the cognition that shopping brings happiness. Name and form, psychological and physiological reactions when seeing goods. 6 sense bases, being attracted by various sensory stimuli in the mall. Contact, coming into contact with desired goods. Feeling, experiencing the pleasure of shopping. Craving, loving this pleasure. Clinging, wanting more goods. Becoming, forming shopping habits. Birth, generating new shopping desires. Aging and death. Shopping desires fade, but new desires arise. 3. Interpersonal relationship, cycle romantic relationship. Ignorance, not understanding the nature of love. Formations, beginning to have good feelings for someone. Consciousness, forming cognition about the other person. Name and form, beginning to pay attention to the other's exterior and interior. 6 sense bases, getting to know the other person through various means. Contact, beginning to have physical contact. Feeling, experiencing the sweetness of love. Craving, falling in love with the other person. Clinging, wanting to possess the other person. Becoming, establishing a romantic relationship. Birth, generating new expectations. Aging and death, relationship ends, but new relationships begin. 4. Work cycle career development. Ignorance, not understanding the true meaning of work. Formations, beginning to look for work. Consciousness, forming cognition about the profession. Name and form, establishing professional identity. 6 sense bases, contacting the work environment. Contact, beginning to work. Feeling, experiencing the sense of achievement from work. Craving, loving the satisfaction brought by work. Clinging, pursuing higher positions. Becoming, obtaining new positions. Birth, generating new career goals. Aging and death, career goals achieved, but new goals appear. These metaphors all illustrate several important features of the 12 links of dependent origination. 1. Circularity. Each link leads to the generation of the next. 2. Interdependence. Each link depends on the previous one. 3. Impermanence. Each link is constantly changing. 4. Breakability. The cycle can be broken through enlightenment. The key to understanding the 12 links of dependent origination lies in recognizing the existence of these cycles, understanding the causal relationship of each link, finding ways to break the cycle, achieving liberation through practice. Though simple, these metaphors can help us better understand how the 12 links of dependent origination work. Whether it's the great cycle or the cycle of specific events, they follow similar laws. By understanding these laws, we can better know ourselves and find the path to liberation. 3. Profound insights. 1. The nature of life. This story tells us that suffering in life, aging, illness, death, is universal, and no one can escape it. But what's important is not to escape, but to face and understand it. 2. The process of awakening. The story shows a complete process from ignorance to awakening. First, shock and denial. Then, deep contemplation. Finally, the enlightenment of wisdom. 3. The path to liberation. The article ultimately points out that through a deep understanding of the nature of life and practice, spiritual liberation can be attained. 4. Modern significance. This ancient story still has important practical significance today, reminding us to face the truth of life, teaching us how to deal with life's sufferings, guiding us to find inner peace. This story is not just a religious story, but a universal allegory about human awakening and the growth of wisdom. It tells us that true wisdom comes from a deep understanding of the nature of life, not from simple escape or pleasure seeking. In today's fast-paced life, this story reminds us to pause and think about the nature of life, to seek the true meaning of life. Just as the prince eventually chose to give up the throne to pursue truth, everyone should be brave enough to face the truth and pursue true freedom of the mind.